Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You know what? It felt a bit weird. I was like trying to make sure I'm pressing the right buttons and doing the right thing because a bit rusty. I didn't even send the guys the stream, the link to the stream yet. They were just sitting there waiting there. What's going on? But what is going on? You're all very welcome to an impromptu question and answer from the Redfellas. I thought we'd do a bit of a Q&A. Not much football to talk about. Well, real football. Well, Liverpool related football. Narrowing it down as we go on. But you're all very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. As you can see, we've got part of the Redfellas. It's difficult. Monday night. Boys have had a long weekend. Some of them. No Liverpool. And even if it was Liverpool, we're shit right now. So, yeah, it was a bit of a drag getting these lads out. But we've got them. We've got the soldiers out. Cav, Steve, Cav, how you doing, my friend? Been a while.
Yeah, I'm doing good. As we was just speaking a moment ago backstage, excited to be back. It feels like ages ago since we've done a stream. It's certainly for me. I've not been on stream for a couple of weeks, and I've actually took the international break as a little bit of a break from football overall, to be honest with you. It's been a tough season. When you're emotionally attached to a club like Liverpool and you're having a season like we are, sometimes it can take it out of you a little bit. So, yeah, took a bit of a break. And obviously, we're back this weekend with a massive fixture. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling rested. And I'm ready to sort of attack the remainder of the season. I think the Q&A is a perfect show to do with the break, going back into talking about what's on people's minds and then maybe what's coming up for the remainder of the season. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Pleased to be back.
Yeah, you say refreshed. I'm still not. Steve, this season has taken its toll, and I know it's the easy thing to do when your team's not doing well. But because we're so invested in this team, in this club, in this player, in this set of players, in this coach, this is exactly what you expect when you go through a dip. It does take its toll. You do feel it. And I think that's a good thing because it shows you care and you're real, because you can't be real and not let it affect you. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Of course, it's affected us. What just seen a tweet from our friend Mick Moran saying, "Can't believe it was 5 months ago," and showing a game against City or a high-profile game from the back end of last season. And it was one of them situations where you look at it and think, that's so not so long ago, and we've gone from there to there, and of course it has an effect on you. And then I think we've got the added trepidation that we're also looking at 8 days of football hell with the 3 opposition that we've got when we go back. You could have asked for 3 easier games than City, Chelsea and Arsenal, couldn't you? That's going to test you. So I think as bad as it's been, we know it's coming back, but we're also looking at it thinking, yeah, we've also got those 3 games as well, which doesn't help.
It doesn't help. I don't know. We'll get into it. Look, today's show, I just thought guys have been saying, where are you lot, man? We've missed you, Where's the Redfellas? Where's the streams? Do a quiz, do a draft. Well, it's all there. It's all in preparation. We'll get onto it. It's just been a bit of a helter-skelter week. We've got, I'm sure it's not the real Emil Heskey. He says, welcome back, guys. I actually done a show for 90 minutes with Emil Heskey, and what a fine gent he was. So, yeah, big up Emil Heskey every time. Hoping to get him on the channel very soon as well. Look, it coincided with sort of Ramadan starting for me as well, where it's the month for fasting. Add to that the state of Liverpool. Add to that the international break. I just needed a little break. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all need to refresh, have a little break. As Cav says, you haven't been on I think you missed the last Redfellas show that we done anyway, I think. So I think you ain't. Yeah, so you've been away for 3 weeks. The rest of us have been away for 2 weeks. We'll be back. Like Liverpool, right, Cav? Liverpool back as well.
Well, I certainly hope we're going to be back. That much I can guarantee. I hope Liverpool will be back. One thing that how I'm looking at the remainder of the season is that I don't want us to limp over the line and just think, just get to the summer, rebuild, and go again next season, because it never really tends to work like that. Actually, your preparation for the following season tends to start at the back end of your previous. We've seen Arsenal do really well at the back end of last season and carried that form in. We've seen Leicester do it in the title-winning season, and we've seen history of it before. So I would like to see Liverpool get top 4, obviously, is an objective. But I want to see players find some form, see some partnerships again, a bit of chemistry, a bit of direction. It might be a lot to ask, but I'm asking just some telltale signs as to maybe what our forward planning is and what we can expect next season. And hopefully we have a good summer that sort of adds to that and really cements us going on hopefully a title charge again, but who knows?
Yeah, it's we're all hoping for the same. We're hoping to. But the thing is, right, we've got to raise our energy levels and then sort of hope that transmits into the team and the club and the coach. You know, it's always a collective. I always say it's a collective from top to bottom: manager, coach, players, supporters, fans. When everything's on one side, singing from the same hymn sheet, it's quite a power. It's quite a force, and we're probably one of the best examples of that. Sort of where we don't have to rely on, I don't know, just finances maybe or whatever. The whole collective is far, far more superior and stronger than a few individual things. But Steve, I know you have been involved in a bit of football to do with Liverpool. I know you covered the Legends game. We were just speaking off air. You didn't enjoy it as much as I did. Maybe it just shows you the sad state of life I'm going through right now. I really enjoyed it. I was like craving anything to do with football, and I watched the Legends like I was watching it like they're all playing in their pomp. I was loving it.
I think that from my perspective, the standard of the game wasn't great. When you see players of the ilk of the ones that rolled out the weekend, you kind of, like you do, you reminisce and you go back to yesteryear in some cases and you think, wow, you know, Steven Gerrard's 42 now, you can't believe that. I thought Kvarma went off injured. We got another one injured very shortly, very early on. And then it was Hippier, Klavan and Skrtel throughout the game in the back three. Sammy Hippier looked as mobile as he ever did. And Martin Skrtel was
which is not very much, to be honest with you. But
no. He was brilliant phase 1 ball winner, and then you needed someone clever around him to pick up bits and pieces. But Skrtel looked decent. I have to say, Skrtel dealt with everything that was put in front of him in terms of because he marked Robbie Keane in the first half and he did a good job. There was no atmosphere, Grizz. I've never heard Anfield like that. It was they did a lot of things in the main stand for schools, and that's since they basically allowed schools to go for free to watch it, to fill up the stand, and I think that's really good for the LFC Foundation to do that, and they do tremendous work in the community. Listen, it was a day out. My wife came with me. It's the third time I think I'll take her to Anfield.
Amazing.
Yeah, we had a bit of a crack. Walk around the stadium beforehand and look at the new build at the back, which has got some bricks in it now, I'm pleased to say. Starting to look the part. I was explaining how they'll lift the roof off and then that will open up the whole stand and they'll put the new roof on top of that. And yeah, it was okay. It was all right. But it's not a league game. It's not filled with the same intensity. And when they're singing Slippy G songs and there's no riposte from the stands at all, and nobody says a word, you look at it and you think, come on, they're singing about one of our, if not our greatest ever player, and this is what you've got. And you stand up and shout it on your own in the stand, you just look an idiot and it doesn't work, does it? So you kind of have to take it on the chin, mate.
Yeah, of course, you're right. The atmosphere is totally different. It is a day out. As Pixelated people say, charity games are a good first experience for the kids, for the family, for your partner, wives, husbands, whatever. It is what it is. It's one of those ones where, strangely, they don't often happen in the mid-season or especially in the coming to the final 10 games of the season. I thought the timing was a bit odd. I don't know what you guys think. But you're not a big fan, are you, Kev? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I watched a couple of performances, and people in the chat let me know who, if you watched it and who performed for you guys. But I thought I thought Klavan was probably man of the match overall, or close to man of the match. And I thought the little cameo for Djibril Cissé, Djibril Cissé was younger. It was like, honestly, I thought, where was this Djibril when we had you? Like, he's better now than he was then.
Yeah, well, I missed the game, and I was planning on watching it back. And Steve didn't particularly sell it to me, and the fact that you've just said Clavan was man of the match hasn't helped as well. So.
No, honestly, Steve described him as playing in a back three, right? Three centre backs. I'm sure he was left wing back, left back, box to box midfielder. He was definitely the fittest on the pitch from our side, anyway.
It's amazing. Yeah. I still see videos online of where he let the ball roll between his legs.
Yeah, the famous Clavan turn.
It's brilliant, yeah. But I will watch it back regardless because I am very, very interested and intrigued to see what happened in the game. I've seen clips. Obviously, Gerard took it away and running away and giving it to the crowd a little bit, which is nice to see, exciting. It's like you touched upon it. It's just so nice for people who maybe don't get the chance to go to Anfield very often, or youngsters where it's their first time going there, because you walk up the stairs and the ground's revealed and the pitch is revealed, and just the contrast of the red seats and the red shirts against the green pitch. It's a beautiful experience, really. And if you're a true football fan and football lover and a Liverpool lover, you'll just really embrace just being there, even if the actual football is not a league game or Champions League game or something. So there's real value to it, and I'm sure people love the day out.
100%. I've noticed we've got a few Man City and more Arsenal fans in the chat. Diallo's one of them, regular on the call-in show. So hi, Grizz, Jesus and Trossard are coming for you. I know they are your kryptonites, those two. And then we've got sort of, please, can you get a draw for us this weekend? Please, Arsenal fans coming into the chat and begging us. Listen, we're trying to look after ourselves here, guys. You know what I mean? We're in no position to help others. We need to help ourselves first and foremost. Guys, if you haven't noticed or if you haven't read the title, it's a Q&A today. It's all about the show. It's all about your questions, your points. Put them in the chat. I've starred quite a few. Of course, mostly they're all going to be about transfers. I get it. But any other questions, it doesn't even have to be about football, really. I just thought we have a chat. Redfellas, good fellas, old fellas, young fellas. I just thought we'd come and have a chat live on air. Why not? Smash the like button. See, try and make sense of what I just said there. That's how rusty I am. Try and make sense. Rewind. You heard right. Rewind about 30 seconds. Try and make sense of what I just said there. All I was meant to say was smash a like on your way in, and I made a right codswallop of that. But smash a like on your way in if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't. And we'll get into your questions very, very shortly. I'll star them along as you go along. But I'm right, though, innit, Steve? Like, we've got to look after ourselves. We're not in no position to do Arsenal any favours or City or anyone else. It's number one.
It's always been number one. It's always been a watchword of Liverpool throughout the history of the club, is that we don't worry about what other people do and we do our own thing, and we worry about getting right what we do. Listen, we're not going to win the league. Whoever wins the league tables don't lie. They will deserve it. We won't concern ourselves with that. We will, in the sense that next year we need to redress that and try and put it right and be in amongst the top dogs next season. But there won't be a conversation ahead of either of these three games that says, listen, boys, we'd rather Arsenal win the league, so we'll make sure we beat Manchester City. We'll make sure we deal with the Chelsea situation and make that a little bit worse for them. And then we've got Arsenal, and you know what? There'll be none of that. We concern ourselves with what goes on within the four walls of our house. It's always been the way for Liverpool. So I get that rival fans will come on and say, get a draw for us. Make no mistake, Liverpool are looking for 9 points from those three games. And I think you made the point, Grizz, a couple of weeks ago. When teams come to us and play, we turn up and we play well. That's why we beat City at home. That's why we gave a good account of ourselves before Diaz went off injured at Arsenal. That's why we beat Manchester United, because they don't come, they don't sit in deep. They feel they've got something to prove. They feel they need to play, and they get caught out by it because, funnily enough, we can still play football. Those three teams will come to play football, home or away. So I expect Liverpool to turn up. And these could be famous last words, obviously. But I expect Liverpool to turn up for all three of those games. And then the fourth game will probably be some lowly team who'll put in a low block and will struggle, because that's been the story of our season.
It has. The story. It hasn't ended, Kev. Mm-hmm. The story's been full of downs this season, isn't it? Like, it started off So if you include the Charity Shield, the story started off so bright, especially on the back of last season, and then after page of like we're still reading the story, and we're like, but our eyes are opening up and thinking, really, beat Man City and then go and lose to Nottingham Forest, beat Napoli and then go and lose to Leeds or whatever it was, and then beat Man United 7-0 and then go and lose to Bournemouth. Really, did this all happen? It did really happen. We're just hoping that the ending of the story, that's why we continue reading. We're hoping that the ending of the story is a bit more happier.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know how happy it can be, but there's an objective to get into the Champions League, which just means we just break even. I would say, we write off the season, we address what went wrong, and we go again next season, but with the opportunity to achieve all the things that we would hope, to target in a normal season. If we miss out on Champions League, then obviously we have to reassess what our targets are. And I'm sure if we fall into the Europa League or whatever it is, we will want to go and win that competition, because we shouldn't turn our nose up at any kind of trophy. We're a big club, most successful one in England, and we should target everything that we go for. So it's funny, Liverpool have been for so long looked at as a club by, I think, a lot of rivals and a lot of other teams as an example as to how you run a club and how you can build such a good team, and how you can go on to win a Champions League and a Premier League. And we've been admired by a lot of people up against some big spenders and clubs that are competing with us in ways that perhaps aren't entirely fair. And now we've been a club that's shown how that can fall off as well. How you can do so well for so long and be at the very top of the tree, and then in quite simply a year fall so far, so low. So I really hope we learn our lessons from the summers gone by. We learn our lessons from this season, and we go back to what we once were, which was a team that was very good or a club that was very good with our recruitment, very shrewd in the signings that we made and the money that we spent. But ultimately, we put together a team and a harmony amongst the camp that not only did we compete, but we did it in the right way. And we did it as a collective together, from top to bottom. And I just hope, we go again. I'm sure we'll come on to transfers and stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of names going to be thrown out in the questions. But the main thing is however we do it, we just get back to being Liverpool, which is competing for titles.
Absolutely is. Pixelated Pigeon reminds us, smash a like on the way. And let's get into some questions, guys. Best way. I've tried to make a note of as many as I can as I go along. Nice and easy one to start off with. Colin Catney says, top 4 predictions, Steve. Well, he doesn't add Steve, but I'm adding Steve.
I think the top 3 are done, because I think the clamour to get to top 4 will cost both Newcastle and Tottenham points over the remainder of the season. I think United have got enough grace to stay away from those. I do think that will happen. Can Liverpool do it? They need 7 from the 9 points that are available in the 3 games in the next 8 days, or 6 at least. It's a big ask for Liverpool. I think Spurs are still in the box seat. They will be lifted by what's happened this week, because Stellini had some better results than
he did. Done better than Conte every time he was in charge. They won.
And they'll be lifted by that. And they'll go again. And Newcastle have just got this with the new kids on the blocks, having a bit of a bounce, haven't they? So it's all for Liverpool to do. Certainly not in their hands. I'm not convinced they'll get it. I think it will be City, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Tottenham in that order. Because I think City are really, really experienced this stage in the season, and getting over the line is the hardest thing. And listen, people will make a case to say Zinchenko is this and he's great and he's a leader and all that. Might not be the best Ukrainian left back in the league for me, so I won't put too much on Zinchenko's ability. I don't think it's great at all. Jesus is a big plus for them coming back right now, but I think the top 4 will be. I think City will. They're going to come for me in the chat for saying this. I think City have the know-how to get across the line. Would it be good for football if Arsenal won? Possibly, because we know the story with Manchester City. We know the back catalogue. But I think I think it's too much for Liverpool to do to get into the top four.
Cav, any change to that? I'll just put my 2 pence in. I think Arsenal might do it. I think Arsenal genuinely might do it. They've got a horrific set of fixtures, very much like us, coming up next month. What's your thoughts on the top four?
I tend to agree with Steve, to be honest. I think the top three is cemented. I think it's done. There was a suggestion, I think, a couple of games.
Can I just throw something at you two before you go on? I get Manchester United are away to Newcastle this weekend. If Newcastle win, they're level. Just want to put it out there. After all that, Man United having their greatest season since the treble season, right? So we're told, right? They're about to, if Newcastle, and there's a chance Newcastle could turn them over this weekend. Just a chance. I'm just saying. Obviously, it could be 6 points if Man United win, and then they're secured pretty much, probably. But I'm just saying.
No, it's a fair point, because with what 10 to 12 games remaining, depending on which club it is. If you're playing the people you're competing with in and around the spots you're going for, then it's a 6-pointer, isn't it? I do think United will secure it though. I mean, they've lost Casemiro for a few games, haven't they? Which is a big blow. But Rashford seems to be continuing this form of scoring most games. He is sort of dragging them a little bit, carrying them on his back, but he's doing it really well. I do think that they'll get into the top four when all is said and done. I still do believe Liverpool will get that final spot, to be honest with you. I just think it's probably against all the odds at the minute with the fixtures, the next three that Steve sort of touched upon. But we just seem to find a way. You know, we've done it before. I know we rely on miracles. Maybe an Alisson header's incoming somewhere again, but I do just think we'll just gather enough energy and enough legs and enough spirit just to get across the line. I do think it'll come down to the final day. I think that much I would bank on. You know, I think it's going to be a nervy final day, trying to watch everybody else's results and what have you. I suppose a good spin-off question would be what the impact would be if Newcastle did get in that top four, you know, with their potential spending power and what that would mean in terms of their objectives.
The landscape changes, guys. The landscape changes, I tell you. Changing of the guard, Newcastle, because if Newcastle get in the top four, I can see them permanently pushing for that top four. When I say permanently, you know what I mean, like for the foreseeable future. And we may get Spurs questions in the chat. We may not. We may get Conte-related questions in the chat. We may not. But you can very clearly see who the team is going to be that's going to probably fall out of the top six, top four. In my opinion, that's going to be Spurs.
Yeah. And with Newcastle, they seem to have a sense of direction. They seem to have a bit of a plan. They spend money when they need to, but they've not gone as mental as I think a lot of people thought they might do. If they get into Europe, they might. He's done a great job, Eddie Howe, but they might just, you know, sacrifice him to go out and get a really big coach. And before you know it, they're right up there. And like you said, they'll be up there for the foreseeable. You'd think based on the ownership now. So that's a bit of a scary prospect. It was going to come at some point, I think, but it seems to have, you know, presented right in our faces quite quickly. So for a club like us, it's a bit worrying because they're now competing, an extra team that's competing for what are in and around the spots that we would have been. So Spurs is an interesting one because they're Spurs, aren't they? They won't do it. They'll bottle it like they usually do, I think.
Brush suggest something. Steve, would you think Newcastle would be tempted? Would they have itchy feet? Because the likes of Nagelsmann, Enrique, who else is out there at the moment? There's one other name. Well, Tuchel's been snapped up now.
Conte.
The likes of these coaches don't often come round. Eddie Howe's done a magnificent job. A truly magnificent job. But I'm just thinking ahead and long term. Newcastle owners might think that they need one of these big names to take them forward, or do you think they're happy with the way they're doing things and continuing the way they are?
It's a 22 situation because since the turn of the year, Newcastle's form's not been great. And I was thinking of that when you said that they play United at the weekend. They've got to get over the hangover from the League Cup final against United. This will be a test of some of the players' character. I don't believe I don't believe in the midfield at Newcastle in the sense that Longstaff and Joe Linton are not in midfield. Joe Linton's not a midfielder, no matter how you dress it up. When we played them at their place, he was culpable twice for our goals. He let people run off him. He just doesn't see the danger that a centre midfielder would. He's done a good job in there, but he's not a centre midfielder. So what do they do going forward? I think you look at it and you think, do they give him a season and see how he goes? Is it time for a manager to come in who's got an extensive black book of names that can ring somebody and they can go, oh, that's my Luis Enrique. I know who he is. I wouldn't mind playing for him. What Newcastle don't want to go down the route is where Steven Gerrard rang Willian and asked him to sign for Liverpool because Brendan Rodgers didn't have the credibility or the minerals to do it himself. So there's always a danger of that. And if you're going to go to the next level, you've got to be taking players from the tables that are above you, pinching better players from better clubs because your project's really good. And I agree with you, Grizz. Eddie Howe's done a tremendous job. But in these projects, similar to Chelsea and what Manchester City did more Manchester City, there's levels these managers can get to. Then you have to look at who's next, who can take them to the next bar. And as much as I like Eddie Howe, I'm not convinced he's your man to be locking horns with Europe's best in the Champions League season in, season out. And I'm not doing him a disservice or a discredit. He's done amazing. But there are managers out there that know how to get the job done in much more high-profile competitions and are able to coax players to go to Newcastle because that's the next thing. The next raft of players coming in will be huge for Newcastle. They need to be upgrades on what they've currently got. And I'm not convinced Eddie Howe has the credibility to have those conversations.
Time will tell. Time will tell. A few Newcastle fans disagreeing with you, saying we're very happy with Eddie Howe.
Well, listen, as I said, I'm not knocking him. He's done a tremendous job. But, with all due respect, you've not been in the Champions League for years. European football is a completely different kettle of fish to domestic football. And as good as Eddie Howe is, sometimes you have to have a manager that knows how to get hold of a player and have a conversation and bring him in because you're going to compete in Europe. Your current squad, A, doesn't have the depth and B, doesn't have enough game changers. You've genuinely got one game changer in Bruno Guimaraes. St. Maxim, as much as people talk about him, he's not a systems man. He's a loose cannon. You have to carry him throughout the whole game because he does his own thing. And I'm not knocking Newcastle. I think what they've done is tremendous. I really want them to win the cup final. So yeah, I comments in the chat. I'm not knocking them, but to go to the next level, at some point there'll be a question over Eddie Howe's ability to get them to where they want to get to.
And I'm sure the owners, it doesn't take other rival fans to say that. I think the owners' actions will show that. I'm pretty certain of that as well. Let's get through some questions and some super chats. By the way, big up Jashar, who becomes the latest YouTube member. Big up yourself. You have direct access to comments, questions, all the interactive shows as part of your perks. Where's that first super chat? Right. Hassan says, Grizz, any updates on buyout investment situation? Who, Man United or Liverpool? I'm joking. Of course, we only care about Liverpool. Man United one's been an absolute circus played out in the public. But yeah, Liverpool one. What do we know? We know that John Henry in his last public statement suggested strongly, may I add, that we're close to securing investment. And I believe that to be the case. I think it should and it would be ready in time for the transfer window, and of course it will be crucial and to see how we deal and tackle the transfer market. Thank you very much for the super chat. But yeah, I do think we're on the verge of announcing some form of deal. Kay says, sends in a super chat, says, transfer news update, Grizz. As always, love the content. One of the highlights of the week. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yes, highlight of our week usually as well, but we've had a couple of weeks off, so no highlights for us as well. Transfer news update. Mate, it's way too early. Way too early. But what do we know? We know. We'll get into it. We know Jude Bellingham, the saga continues. My God, lads, the amount of flirting taking place, not only from our lads, but from their lads as well, like Man City lads. I think it's fair to say, and I've said it again, time and time again, I think it's out of us and City. I don't think Madrid are in the picture at all. I think Man City and Liverpool. And you guys, I'm not going to repeat what I think. It's boring now. Let's just get that on the other line. The other one that's getting really, really interesting and really, really hot topic, and it's dividing the fan base as usual. Has there ever been a rumor? Has there ever been a player or incoming potential player that doesn't divide the fan base? Is Mason Mount? I know we've got questions based around him, but that's the transfer latest. As far as I know, I think Mason Mount and Jude Bellingham are pretty much, in my opinion, nailed on. Especially if Mason Mount doesn't sign the extension with Chelsea. KD, you sent a couple of super chats. So I'm just going to get through yours all together. 8 points between third and eighth. United far from safe. Crazy fixtures. No Casemiro. Still need to play most of the big teams. Cav, that's pretty much what we've just said, isn't it? It's a bit of a wild situation trying to predict this league.
Yeah. But KD just put it much better than we did. So fair play to you, mate.
Always. He sends in another super chat. You might as well sponsor today's show, by the way, which is sponsored by yourfutcard.com. Officially, go and make sure you check them out. Yourfutcard.com. Type in 15%. You will get. Type in Redfellas, you'll get 15% off any purchases. They've got some amazing new designs, which I will be showing you guys on Sunday on the main Redfellas show. But make sure you go check out our channel sponsors, yourfutcard.com. He says, between third and eighth, most of them have to play each other except us. We only have to play 2. That means every week, at least one of them is dropping points. We just need to capitalize on it. KD, we've been saying that every other week. That's the problem, though, my brother. That is the big problem. Let's get into some questions. I'll come to you, Steve, first. Kone or Garte?
Of the two, Agate, but I kind of like Turan better than both of them. But of the two, I will go with Agate.
Next one for you, Cav. James Ward-Prowse or Mason Mount? So basically, Mason Mount, we've seen stories getting stronger and stronger. It started from the Chelsea journalists, the Chelsea clique, just like how the Liverpool have their clique of journalists that sort of get whispers news surrounding Liverpool. Chelsea journalists have suggested that Liverpool are favourites for Mason Mount if he chooses to leave Chelsea. And then James Ward-Prowse has been mentioned in the last few days. But Bailey asks a simple question. James Ward-Prowse or Mason Mount?
For me, Mason Mount. They both offer different things. Obviously, they're both English. They're both midfielders. 2 key things that we need this summer. But I like Mason Mount. I know he's the one that is dividing the fan base at the minute. I think this season he's not developed and not had a season as he would have hoped. But I think prior to that, I think he's had a really good career. He's still relatively young. I think, was he 24, 25? He's still got years ahead of him.
24.
Yeah, and you can't downplay the fact that he's a Champions League winner. His experience playing in Europe, traveling and pressure and all of this and that. I think the Lampard thing kind of stuck with him for a while. He struggled to sort of shake that tag. But I think he's a really good player. I think he's a manager's dream. He can play numerous positions. He seems to take on instructions quite well. There's a reason that he's in that England fold ahead of some perhaps more talented players. It's because he delivers when he plays in what he's asked to do. And sometimes that's not always what the fans want to see. So I think it'll be a smart signing for Liverpool. Experienced in the league, experienced in Liverpool, English, still got years ahead of him. I think he's the sort of player that Klopp would enjoy to have as well. I think he would take on board what's being asked of him. And yeah, he'll come in and he knows some of the England guys as well. So I think it will be a seamless fit. It would just come down to the finances involved and what our other plans are with regards to signings, I think. But I won't be disappointed in that. James Ward-Prowse, yes, good set piece taker. He is a good player in game, but I think his name's being bandied around because of the Southampton situation and the fact that if they go down, you might be able to get somebody on a reduced price. So if that happens to be the case, yeah, great. But if Southampton stay in the league and they're talking similar figures for both players, I'd definitely have Mount up ahead of James Ward-Prowse.
Couldn't agree with you more. Pretty much agree with everything you said. Mason Mount is being shown a lot of disrespect by a lot of sections of the fan base, which is fair enough. You're allowed to show it, but you're going to eat your words just like you eat with Nunes, just like you with numerous other signings. Numerous other signings. Manas asks, or Manas, I apologize. asks, has Thiago... this is a bloody whole show in itself, lads. But very briefly, because I've noticed we're running out of time very quickly. We've got about 1,000 questions. Has Thiago been a success, failure, redundant as a Liverpool player? Steve, I always like asking you the easy questions. This one's for you.
I don't think he's been a success or a failure. I think circumstances mean we could have got more out of him. We could have seen the Thiago that we thought we were signing. He's not a player to play on the stretch, going back towards his own goal. We've seen too much of that because of our inadequacies elsewhere on the pitch. If we were to move to a 4-2-3-1, which is something we've spoken about in the show a number of times, he could very easily play in the double pivot. We saw that in the season when we took 28 from 30 points. But we mustn't forget that was 3 years ago. So times have changed. He's on a massive wage, on about 215 grand a week. Can we rely on him? Not as much as we would like to. I think there's some question marks about Thiago as a Liverpool player going forward, in terms of someone from Spain comes in with a decent offer. Does it turn his head? Does he think about going? Can we save ourselves 860 grand a month on wages? Right now, we're paying 860 grand a month for a player we can't call on, and that's a frustration for Liverpool fans all around the world. But I must caveat that with, when he's fit and when he's playing, he's an absolutely wonderful footballer, technically the best footballer in the club by a country mile. He does things on and off the ball that other players don't even see. So it's about finding what's causing him his problems. It's about his condition, and it's about making sure he's available for more games than he has been. But that's been a factor of his whole career. He's never done more than 30 games in a season. Historically, season in, season out.
Yep.
So I think, as good as he is, when we talk about a midfield refresh, I wouldn't be uncomfortable if we got the names that we're looking at, the people that we wanted to get involved. If a decision was made and Thiago decided he thought his career was in Spain, I think I would be okay with that, because I've not seen from him what I wanted to see from him. But that said, he's a wonderful footballer, and how good would it be to get him firing and in that midfield? But it's just tough for him at the moment.
We could go round and round. As I said, we could do a whole show on it, Cav. So me and you just sit this one out, because we probably got strong opinions on this as well. And it's a whole debate. And we've got loads of debate shows coming up, people. I know we've been slacking last fortnight or so, but we'll be back, just like Liverpool. As long as you keep smashing those likes and showing us some love, we'll show you love back. That's how it works, right, people? Show us love and we'll show you love. Scott Ferguson says, what are your 4 realistic signings this summer? Question mark. And then he says 3 midfielders and a centre back. So I think he wants you to have 3 midfielders, Cav, and a centre back. Or do you want me to take this one? It's up to you.
No, you go ahead, Grizz.
All right. So he's suggesting that he'd want, or he's assuming 3 midfielders and a centre back, which is pretty much what I'd go for as well. So you're right on that fact, or on that opinion. Sorry. The 3 midfielders. Okay, the 3 midfielders. If without being crazy, and within the realms of realistic. I'd love myself. I'd love Jude, Caicedo, Mount. That would be my 3. Jude, Caicedo, Mount. And the centre-back, for me, it's quite clear and quite obvious. Everyone is saying Vardio. Everyone is saying others. For me, I've said it would be the Napoli Kim. For me, 42 million pound release clause. You just can't go wrong in this day and age. You just can't go on. We have to be at the front of that queue, because there's going to be a queue. That's just and I think they're realistic as well.
I think we're going to end up with Adrian Rabiot on a free.
There you go. You heard it here first, people. Pixelated Pigeon says, do you guys expect Diaz to make an impact this season? Or do you think it's a case of getting him ready for next season? Even Jota doesn't look anywhere near it at the moment. Cav?
I think he will make an impact when he comes back, because he's that type of player. I think he's just, plays with his heart on his sleeve, desire, work rate. And I think, we need to protect him. But once he's ready, and he's put out there, I think he'll play the exact same way. And I think he'll want to come on and show everybody, hey, I'm back. I'm still the guy, you know. And he's got competition now, believe it or not. So he's going to have to seize the opportunity. We're assuming once he's back, he's fit and available and he's ready to play. So I don't think he's somebody that, yeah, okay, maybe that the odd shot and the odd pass is a bit rusty. But in terms of like desire and in terms of running and things like that, I think we'll see the Diaz of old, just like when he came in, when he joined the club.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that we've got left to look forward to at the end of the season, the return of Diaz, and hopefully fires up. Guys, coming up to close to 200 people, smash up the likes, not even 100 likes yet. That's poor. Get on with it, please. Notice I say get on with it, like the stern side, and then I say please, and I melt at the end. So, do you know what I mean? Mutaz says, any truth about Gabby Viega interest? Young central midfielder, Celta Vigo. Gabriel Viega from Celta Vigo. There you go. I haven't heard anything myself. Don't know much about the player. I'm so sorry to give you limited insight onto that, I guess. Steve, how many first 11 team signings do you think will help us to go for the title? And again, it's one of those realistic ones. Let's be honest with you, on our channel, we try to be realistic and rational as much as we can.
I think we need 2 to start in midfield, 2 for midfield, and we need to bring in a genuine alternative to Van Dijk or Konate.
Yep.
I think if we get a bid somewhere in the region of 10 million, for instance, I think we might see Matip leave. And obviously Joe Gomez's situation remains what it is, that from one week to the next, you don't know which Joe Gomez is going to turn up, and when he makes a mistake, he gets inside his own head and then he can't play for the rest of the game and he makes further more mistakes. So I would be happy with 2 starting midfielders. Don't leave it at 2. We need 3, realistically. If we get a free transfer, I mentioned Adrian Rabiot's batting his eyelids at Liverpool from Turin at the moment. The centre-back situation is interesting because Guardiola's come out and said, Pep Guardiola said something to him as he was leaving the pitch after their game.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and he said, well, it doesn't matter anyway because they're not selling me this summer, so it's pointless. Don't need to have this conversation. So the lad in Dicker will be available on a free. And I know it was kind of perceived that it would be Barcelona that might stand in our way. But Barcelona have to get rid of 8 first-team players before they can sign anybody. So don't expect Barcelona to sign anybody anytime soon. I think La Liga is going to be very quiet in terms of major signings this summer because they're all about Haaland in 2024, Real Madrid, and that's 200 million plus. So we've got to raise that money, haven't they? So yeah, two starting midfielders and a genuine third centre-back that when you rotate, you don't feel the loss or you don't see the drop-off that we've seen this season. And I think that's, for me, almost as important as having a couple of lads in midfield that can add something to it. Defensively, the people we've come to rely on haven't necessarily turned up this season, and we need to change that.
Fair enough. Joshua says, big up Grizz, who's better, Alan Hansen or VVD? Alan Hansen was just before my time, I must admit. Not many players were before my time, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
I until this season would have made a big argument to say Virgil van Dijk. Alan Hansen had some bad injuries as well, and the form didn't drop off. And football was a lot more physical when Alan Hansen played at centre back because you could tackle people for a start, and they could tackle you. If you breathe on someone now, it's a free kick. We'll say this about Van Dijk. There's lots more to come from Van Dijk, especially if we sign the right partner for him, because he's an IQ defender, and he can be an IQ defender for the next 5 years. Thiago Silva's an IQ defender who doesn't rely on physical attributes. He relies on his understanding of the game and being in the right places at the right time. He will never lose that. He probably has peaked, and the injury did him no favours at all, but he's still... listen, you don't play Mbappe every week, so let's take the Netherlands game out of the equation because Mbappe could do that to anybody. He's still a top draw world-class central defender that is in the top 2 or 3 central defenders in the world playing on one leg. It's the IQ that makes the difference with players like that.
Fair enough. I'll take this one. Declan says, "Can you get Indy Kali on the show?" I'll ask him. Very good friend of mine. He's in my DMs all the time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. KD says, "Happy to sponsor the show. Smash the likes. Thank you very much. Appreciate the love." Cav, this one's for you, I reckon. Don't know why. I reckon.
Wow. Okay. Bid for Saka. How much is he worth right now? Well, he's got everything going for him, hasn't he? You know, I think he's the real modern day right winger, right inside forward, can score, can assist, performs pretty much week in, week out. He's dynamic, can come inside, can go outside. I don't know if his stock's at his peak. Maybe not just yet. If he has next season, like he's done this season, then maybe there's still levels in terms of his value. But right now, I think that's I mean, what's his contract situation actually? Is he?
So he's signed a new deal that's going to keep him there. Yeah, so he's there now for the long run.
Yeah. What I would say is, no disrespect to Arsenal, of course they're a huge club, but I do think if he continues to perform like he is at the minute, that he might look himself at maybe making a step up to a you know, maybe not a Madrid, but you know what I mean, a bigger club, maybe taking on a new challenge, which I wouldn't have thought of a few years back actually. But right now, if he's available, 80, I don't know, 75, 80, maybe more. Yeah, maybe more. But it's unrealistic, is what I would say right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'd put him. I think in this current market, I think he's in the 80 to 100 million pound mark. It is what it is. He's young, plays every game, hardly ever injured, can play left wing, can play left back, and is excelling at right wing right now. So yeah, if any team went for him now, let's say Man City went for him, they paid 100 million for Grealish. Surely they pay 100 million plus for someone like Saka. We're hearing about Vinicius Junior's that kind of price range. We're talking about Rafael Leao, that price range. Kvara, you know him, that one. He's about that kind of price range. So would Saka be, I think. Yeah, fantastic. Very quickly, guys, there was a bit of a debate on another platform I was on about Saka, and then one of the lads suggested, you can't be called world class if you've not played Champions League consistently. Any weight to that?
No. For me, it's a bit of a bold answer, wasn't it? It's the same thing as when they say Steven Gerrard isn't the best English midfielder because he never won the Premier League, right? It's not about that. It's about what they do on the pitch and the impact they have on the pitch. You can be world class without playing in the Champions League. R9 never won the Champions League. That's the best number 9 we've ever seen. So, you know, if you talk about going deep into the Champions League and achieving things, that didn't happen for him either. To be world class, you've got to be the first, or for me, you've got to be amongst the top 3 players in the world in your position. And right now, as a right winger, you could probably argue he is in that. I saw an interesting stat today that Salah's got 10 more goals than him and the same amount of assists. And Salah's supposed to be struggling and Saka's supposed to be having the season of all seasons. What he does, Grizz, he passes the eye test, and he passes the eye test ridiculously well. But the eye test doesn't win you trophies. Arsenal may well win the Premier League, but what they pay 100 million for is what he gives you in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years as he continues to grow as a footballer, because no one knows where his ceiling is at the moment. We've seen Salah's ceiling. We know where that is. No one knows what Saka's going to end up being because he's so young and he's got so much more to learn about football. I agree with your valuation, but I think he's approaching world class.
Fair enough. Diallo suggests asks the question, I should say, Hendo or Milner, who would you keep, Kev?
Oh God, I'd keep Henderson. I'd keep Henderson. Yeah,
just because of the age, just because of the.
Well, I could go on. The thing with Milner is, right, nobody likes the fact that he's still here and that he's 37 and that he's getting on, and he shouldn't be in a Liverpool starting team and he shouldn't be even a backup player for us. But the truth be told, when he plays, he performs. He gives you a 6 or 7 out of 10. You know, I don't think you can criticize him as a player and what he's done for us recently. He just delivers. It's not his fault that everybody else around him isn't available or isn't performing well enough to get in as a sub ahead of him. But I think Henderson brings a lot more to to Liverpool as a whole. He's very well respected in the league, very well respected with managers. And I think Steve in particular makes this point, there's a lot of value in having leaders both in the background and on the pitch. But when you're traveling and you're around these teammates so much, you need these guys that just keep you down to earth, get you back in when you need to. And look at the season we've just had. And how many fallouts have we seen? Hardly any. And that's the reason, because we've got good men within this squad. So for that reason, I'd keep Henderson around ahead of Milner. But they're very, very, very similar in what they bring.
See any change to that?
No, I think the only argument you could possibly make is Milner's versatility.
Yeah,
Henderson's, for me, increasingly becoming a 6. Doesn't have the engine for an 8. Could play as a sweeper. Has played as a centre back before. I see him more as a guy now that's going to come on and manage the end of games from winning positions. Kind of what we signed Thiago to do, a little bit along the lines of Thiago would have been the perfect player to bring on at 2-0 and then you never get the football off him. That would have been perfect, but it hasn't transpired to be like that. But no, I think Henderson over Milner, because of the things that I have said before and Cav points out, that is Jurgen Klopp on the pitch, and anyone that steps out of line, he just nails it and it's dealt with, and you keep that grounded feeling in the football club. Both of those guys will do that. I think Milner has a season away and then comes back as a coach potentially.
Mm-hmm. Our very own Noor comes in and says, Enzo Lafay, any interest from LFC or any others? I'm not really sure or care about any others, no. But yes, we have doing interest in Enzo Lafay, according to what I heard and what I know. If that comes out, let's see. But diminutive little playmaker stroke, Thiago-esque type player, plays for Lorient in the Ligue 1, has actually come out today and said he's leaving, which is interesting. I can definitely see a few Premier League teams being interested in him. Very good technician. Sorry for sounding Brendan Rodgers there, but great.
Is he likened to Frankie de Jong-esque type player?
I say Frankie de Jong is more box to box, or has the ability to go box to box. I think this guy is a bit more jinky typey, very technical, short passes, a lot of 1-2s, gets around the pitch. I think Frankie's, of course, the far more accomplished player. I get the comparison, but I think Enzo's a bit more on the ball, whereas Frankie likes to move the ball, if that makes kind of sense. And Frankie's a very powerful runner with the ball. It's understated or underrated, Frankie's ability to run with the ball, in my opinion. Anyone can take this one. Aki says, don't you think we need a genuine understudy to Salah? Someone really to push him for a place when he's not firing. Ever since he signed that contract renew, he's been a shadow of him for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, Steve, I was going to say maybe that might be Diaz, because we have options at the left side and the left wing position, left forward position. And maybe
I like that shout. I've said it before. I think Diaz can play on the right wing, lads. He's played there a few games. Most notably, he played there against Newcastle last season, or the season before, I should say. Sorry, no, last season, not this season. Last season, when we won there. Keita scored. Diaz had a good game. I like Diaz on the right wing. That is an option we could look at. But I agree with the notion that we should have someone. But it could be Ben Doak, lads. Now, I know he's just a kid, but my God, he's coming on leaps and bounds. I've been saying it for a year. Do you remember I said, watch out for the name Ben Doak, and it's catching fire now.
I agree, both of you. I think we will see a front three of Nunez, Gakpo and Diaz at some point within the next 12 months and start to feature, because we'll play more games. And then when Mo Salah does eventually hang up his Liverpool boots and move on to something else, then I think Doak is the guy that pushes Diaz to keep him on his toes rather than doing it now for Salah. The only issue playing Diaz on the right-hand side is we lose the inverted side of his game. We have to go around the outside, and that's not something we look to do.
The only comeback to that would be it gives us a different option. So inverted is kind of predictable now. Both our wingers being inverted. If we're looking to expand, or if we're trying to play different, or if we're trying to surprise, then Diaz going on the outside as playing as a traditional winger, like I think he's absolutely got the ability to doing, like an old school right winger.
First season Mane, maybe.
First season Mane. What a great shout, Cav. Missed your insight. We should do this.
And also we've just touched upon a couple of points offensively, but defensively, our biggest creator is, most creative guy we have is Trent, and we always talk about his frailties defensively. Maybe having someone who naturally will track back and naturally run back, and like Diaz does, might benefit Trent. That relationship's going to be key. Whoever goes in there. Lads,
we're not going to stay for much longer. Get your questions in very quickly. VVD or Stam, and why, Steve? I'm a massive Stam fan, even though he's a United player.
This is really difficult because Stam was defensively like a machine, and there were times Van Dijk's defensively been a machine, but Van Dijk is a better footballer than Stam ever was in terms of launching the transition. So I think if you want a guy that's a first phase one ball winner, I'm going to sit on the fence here. Stam and Van Dijk together would be perfect because Stam would go and win the ball, and anything he didn't win, Van Dijk would mop up, and then you'd be on the front foot, going off down the wings, attacking. As all-rounded footballers, which is what today's game is, Van Dijk gets the nod for me in terms of just being a stalwart central defender that is nobody gets by him. I don't think there's ever been anybody in the Premier League that had the physical presence that Stam had. So it's for eras, my friend, is the answer to that. In the days of stonewall defending, Stam wins that one. In the age of being a more rounded footballer and often being the trigger for your quick transitions, Stam couldn't do what Van Dijk does on the ball.
I think that's a great answer. Great answer. Pick both of them. What a partnership that would be. Magnificent partnership. Absolutely magnificent partnership. Avik says, do you think Carvalho will be sold like Minamino, Cav? Interesting one, weird one, isn't it, with Fabio?
Yeah, I can see why that question would be asked, because there's value in Carvalho, even though he's young and he has development. I think during his time at Fulham, he's shown that he can produce at a certain level and in a certain system, So I think that teams in the Championship will certainly look at him again, to bring him in and compete to get out of that league. There might be lower league teams in this league that would look at him and feel he can do a job. But I certainly hope not, because I think there's a real player there. I think he just needs development. He needs time. He needs to build physically. And he needs to work his way into playing some consistent minutes. Hopefully next season that'll be in the cup competitions and stuff, and we can start to see the player develop. I think he's a player that can be tailored into a number of positions at the moment as well. He could play the 10. I don't think he's pacey enough to play off the left, but if he builds on his technical ability, possibly. Suggestion maybe would be a false 9 in the long distant future, maybe. So I hope we keep hold of him. I don't think we'll recoup a whole lot of money for him at this stage. But I can see why that question would be asked, because like I say, he would benefit a certain team.
Patience for me. Got to stick with him. If we believed in him and went all the way to sign him, fought for him when so many other teams wanted him, the likes of Dortmund, etc. I think we persist with him. I think he's obviously he's coming to Liverpool Football Club, lads. He's coming to Liverpool Football Club and he's a kid. I'd say be patient, but Klopp's got to show a plan for him. He's got to have a plan for him. Loan or keep Calvin Ramsey? I'm going to be very quick with this one. Keep. I love Calvin Ramsey. Awful, horrendous, horrific first season for the lad. Just can't get started, injury after injury. But the glimpses that I've seen of him, I'm so convinced about him. El Lad says, Grizz, what's your thoughts on the Milner extension deal and the Mitoma rumours for DiMarzio? Milner extension, guys, I don't know what you guys think. Look, it's not going to affect the overall transfer strategy. People need to get that into their system. It's got nothing to do with the transfer strategy moving on. We're not going to extend Milner because we don't want to invest in a right back or another midfielder or number 8 or wherever the 5-6 positions that Milner plays. It's just for that intangible that we can't measure. That's it. The professionalism, the examples he sets and everything, and he's going to be on peanuts now. It's going to be even reduced from the reduced contract that he was given. So it's going to be if he decides to stay or he's given another contract, which is still not decided. It's going to be on peanuts, and he's going to be kept around as one of the club's lieutenants. And every club, every coach, and every captain will tell you it's so vital to have these people around your club. I agree with what Cav said earlier on. He should no way be starting games for Liverpool in 2023. No way. But that's not his fault.
So he gives you 4 positions covered sitting on the bench. So he can come on and give you 10 minutes as an 8. He can come on and give you 20 minutes as a 6. He can come on and give you however long you want to play him for at left or right back. So in terms of that, that you can see why he's been kept at the football club, and I'm not making a case for him to have an extension and stay. If he stays like you, Grizz, I've got no problem with that because it doesn't change the plan. But like we spoke about before, having the right people at the club to do the right things in terms of how you conduct yourself and how you behave around young pros and things like that. Liverpool Football Club always had them and will continue to have them, and he's as good as anybody at that. He puts all the fires out before they get to Klopp.
Yeah, there you go. As again, you can't measure these things. You can't stress the importance that these things have in a successful squad. In every successful squad, let me add. Pixelated Pigeon says, could Elliot end up in a Cater-like role only with better availability? Depending on signings, what is his best case scenario next season? Good question.
Interesting one. Horses for courses with Elliot, horses for courses with Liverpool. There will be games when we play him in that slightly further advanced right midfield role. Best example of that was the fact that between Fred and Casemiro, they couldn't figure out how to stop him playing in the second half. So they stayed central and have all the space in the world. So there will be games, tactical games against teams where we'll need that ability for him to link play. I'm not convinced we're going to see the 4-3-3 the way we've seen the 4-3-3. If you sign Jude Bellingham and you play him on the right side of that midfield 3, you're not signing a ball recycler. You're signing a box-to-box dynamic player. That in itself brings a slight change in shape. So I think things will be slightly different next season, and I think Elliot will play in games where we need that link player. And he's only 19, he's still learning his trade. So, he's going nowhere, and he certainly won't be viewed in the same way that Cater was.
Cav, anything to add or minus?
Yeah, no, I think Steve summed it up really well. It's horses for courses because he's a player with good ability, but also a lot of, things he still needs to work on. He's not the complete player. He's going to look back at this season and be happy with it. I think he's the only player to have played every game for Liverpool, which is crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
For his personal development.
And again, that's not his fault. He shouldn't be in a position like that. That comes down to just a bad year all round for Liverpool, I think, from top to bottom. And we have to just accept it and acknowledge it. And it's no problem. In the long term, in the long run, if we address the issues that we've caused for ourselves, possibly in the last 12 months, and we learn from them, listen, great clubs, great institutions are allowed a bad year from the top to bottom, including directors, owners, coach, players, fitness people, whatever. It's okay. We've had a bad year. But let's learn from it and let's push on. And Elliot playing every single game, you said, or being part of every single game, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that at the age of 19. It's just not fair on the guy.
And he's still learning, he's developing. I mean, it weren't too long ago he was being pulled up by Milner and Henderson for all his off-field antics, and he was really acting like a learning teenager. Exactly. So he's shown that he's developing. You see the way he plays, he's obviously a huge fan of the club, and you see that in how he performs. So stick with him, and I think hopefully Liverpool improve as a whole, and he'll just find his spot. I think he's got a lot of learning to do, but I'm not worried about Elliot. He gives me enough as a youngster to believe in him, I think.
Like button smash like hopefully Arsenal do when we visit Anfield. Big up Arsenal. Alex usually on the Big Six with me. Yeah, people are asking any Big Six tonight. No, hence why I'm doing impromptu stream on my own channel today. We're back on Thursday for the Big Six. Just thought we'd get in here and have a chat with all our own subscribers, viewers, listeners. If you're listening to the audio as an audio podcast afterwards, just thought we have a chat, guys. It's been a little while. We're looking forward to, I guess, a hectic ending to the season. It's going to be pretty mad. Just the next 3 games, lads. What's a must, Tally? What's a need, Tally? What will put us out of the top 4 completely? Well, we know 0 or 1 points will completely put us out, but you know what I mean. Like what we looking to target to keep us going? Because on paper, and I know this season especially isn't being played on paper. What are we looking at in the next 3 games, Kev? Arsenal. Okay, in order: Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal.
I think that we need to take 6 points because depending on how other results go around us, that would put us in and around top 4, 2-3 points, off it maybe with 10 games to go. 10 games with 2 or 3 points off, you can definitely make something happen. I think the point was made earlier. A lot of teams have still got to play each other in and around us as well. So, I think 6 points. I don't believe we can win them all. I think Man City away is going to be incredibly difficult. First game back, and obviously they've had a good sort of bit of form going into the international break. Haaland, I think, is a little bit of a doubt, but if he plays, he looks like he's bang at it with his 5 goals in Europe not too long ago as well. So, if we can get 6 points, I'll be all right with that. Make sure we win our home game.
I'll bite your hands off, man. I'll bite your hand off for 6 points right now. I'm going with 5. Cav's going with 6, and I agree with him. Like that would really, I think that would really push us on for the end of the season. I know we've said this again and again and again, but I think I'm looking at 5 points, guys. I'd really take 5 points. I'd take the Arsenal win at home and 2 draws away. I know Chelsea haven't been great, but they seem to be a little bit back in form. And definitely Man City away. I'll take a point right now. Steve?
I get you 5. I understand it. I think because we're not solely relying on our own results, 2 wins out of 3 means we don't lose any ground, realistically, because you can't see anyone else in the top 4 race taking 9 from 9. Someone's going to slip up somewhere. What we can't afford to do is come out with 3 games where we've lost ground on someone that we're chasing. You've got to be realistic about this.
No, you're right.
Manchester City don't necessarily like playing Liverpool. Darwin Núñez likes playing against Manchester City's defence because you can isolate them and you can force errors out of them. Look at the Charity Shield. He just targeted Diaz and made what everyone thought was the best centre-back in the world look absolutely average because he likes to identify defenders and isolate them one-on-one and use his attributes. It's got to be 6. It's got to be 6. I think Arsenal at home is the game that we will look to win because of Arsenal's record at Anfield's really not great. And that does count for a lot in terms of psychological advantage.
Sorry, Steve, just to add, they always come to Anfield in form as well. Yeah. Just feel like we always play Arsenal at home and they always feel like they've got a chance, and then usually
I just wonder whether they've got the speakers out in the training ground playing and Never Walk Alone again just to try and get over the hump of the atmosphere. It's really difficult. If we lose to City by the odd goal, we can still go and win the other 2. If we turn up and put in one of those performances where we're not at the races against City, that could be painful. They've done it to us a number of times in recent years. And then you're back to sort of no confidence in the camp. And that's important. We give a good account of ourselves in the first game. To break this hoodoo on the half 12 thing that we've not won, because we haven't in the half 12 game.
I forgot about that.
But we will turn up because it's Manchester City. They bring the best out of us and we bring the best out of them. It will be a proper game. It'll be very quick. It'll be very pacey. But I'm kind of leaning towards 6 over the 5 because we cannot afford to give anything to anybody in that race.
Let's see how it goes, people. I think it's time to get nervous again, sweaty palms again. It's time to get excited again. We've had a couple of weeks laying about doing nothing, watching a bit of international football, a bit of legends football, but I think it's time to get serious again. And yeah, as you said, Steve, no more serious and more frenetic and more pacey game than the Liverpool Man City to start things off. We started off with Man City Liverpool in the cup, didn't we? After the World Cup, the first game back, wasn't it? And that was quite the game. Do you remember in the League Cup? I think it was. I anticipate something similar. Both teams will be stronger. Hopefully, we will be stronger. Guys, I'll take 5 points, man. Even 5 points, I'm very happy with. I know you guys are saying 6, of course, and I get it. But with the state of the other fixtures coming up in the next few weeks, it's vital that we don't let that gap extend. Just stick in there. But people, this has been a magnificent show. I really enjoyed it. We just thought we'd decide we'd do a quick question and answer. Didn't have anything planned. You guys helped us get through as usual. Sorry if I couldn't get your questions in. Appreciate the love and support. Steve, Cav, we'll be back next Sunday. Hopefully, Redfellas won't. We will hopefully hope in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
Should be interesting end of the season. If anything else, if nothing else, I should say. But people, like the stream if you haven't, subscribe if you haven't. We will be doing some more content during the week. Keep an eye on the socials to keep you updated. Yes. Goodbye from Steve. Goodbye from Cav. And it's goodbye from Chris. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.